Welcome to Freshwaters Productions, a channel dedicated to indie and classic games outside of the modern AAA gaming industry. Today we'll be on part 2 of Shadowrun, speaking on the very first game in the series. Shadowrun Returns takes place in the Redmond Barrens of Seattle. Seattle is not a happy place. It's a radioactive hellhole full of gangs, murderers, apathetic corporations, and so on. The sinless are free to live off the scraps of the corporations above them, with no protection or rights to speak of. You are one of those sinless. You haven't had a real job in 3 years. You've sold all your weapons, armor, and gear, and the money has finally run out. You need a job. Any job. Just then, you get a call on the phone from an old friend named Samuel Watts. He was an old Shadowrunning buddy you thought was dead. And it turns out you're right. Someone finally murdered Sam, and a dead man's switch he placed in his head is offering you a massive amount of money to find out who it was that killed him. This minor, albeit horrific crime, ultimately leads the player into a spider's web of conspiracy, vile mutants, horrific serial killers, nightmarish pagan religions, and monstrous spirits even those most powerful of mages utterly fear. Between sociopathic megacorporation CEOs and funky-talking Shadowland technomancers, there's all sorts of characters, kooky and horrifying, you'll come across. As the first game in the trilogy, Dead Man's Switch was something of a rough game compared to its sequels. For example, the mercenary system. There are a few allies that your character will need to hire to take on missions with you, if only to ensure that you don't die due to the size of your outstanding opposition. For example, if you perform a specific side quest, one woman named Coyote Ugly, not a shaman, a simple street samurai, is available for hire at a reduced rate. And you pretty much always benefit from having her on board. She was a prototype for the squad mates that your character would have alongside them for the full games of Dragonfall and Hong Kong. In addition, the story of Dead Man's Switch is by far the most linear of the three, with only one potential bonus mission, the prototype for the squad mate missions in the sequels, and an entirely story-focused campaign. In addition, it often feels like the game is grasping at straws in order to bring in certain characters from the older stories. For example, Jake Armitage, the protagonist of the original Shadowrun SNES game, is kind of thrown into the story. And Dodger, the elven Decker from the very first Shadowrun short story, is just kind of there. However, for what it is a very fun story with easy to understand gameplay, and it's a great introduction to the Shadowrun universe. If you've got $15 to spare, this game's got the runtime and the fun, if not more so, than a AAA campaign. Next time, we'll look at the sequel, Shadowrun Dragonfall.